So maybe just to introduce myself, I'm Ella. I'm running the data science team at Deliveroo. So I assume many of you are familiar with Deliveroo. It's and I hope you're customers. And you know, when you are maybe feeling a bit lazy to cook, you consider ordering with us. At Deliveroo, my team supports the whole business and help basically make decisions using data. So my team is now over 110 people, and it's one of the largest data science teams now. And the work is super interesting because we help to, you know, analyze what are the kind of food trends, how do we best deliver food from the restaurant to the customer, what is their experience like, how can we make the app better, and all of these things. So very interesting work. I also have 2 young children, as you see here, that also keep me very busy. And I live in Amsterdam. I've moved there about half a year ago, but my team is still based in London. I just want to maybe start from my very early childhood, where my mom, she was working with children who had educational needs, so maybe children with disabilities as well. And my dad, he was running a charity. So for example, refugees camps, or like kind of places where women could go with the children if there was domestic violence and things like this. So that meant that probably my reality was quite different to other children. I guess my parents were always very, very happy with me just being a happy person, and they didn't really care much about my academic performance. They just wanted me to be able to have a good life and be independent and not, having any existential fears. So I guess that was interesting that I never had any pressure on me, but also, of course, that meant that also maybe the expectations on myself were a bit lower, because I never kind of was expected to perform particularly well in anything. And then also I was a very, very rebellious teenager, and I'm feeling very sorry now for my parents, because I now have 2 kids and I really hope they don't turn out like me. They were, I was incredibly, I think I brought a lot of anxiety to my parents, let's put it that way. And also my grades in school really dropped, and really school was not at top of my mind at all. But then when I was 17, I guess there was something in me that thought, it would be really good to go to university, and so I need good grades, and maybe I should pick myself up again and try to, the last year of school, make that count. And that was interesting, because I kind of turned my life around a bit and became less of a party animal. And I actually managed to have really, really good grades in the end. And it was interesting because it came from inside me. And I knew that if I really put my mind to it, I could really change things. But I guess what I've learned from that is that you don't always have to be good. Sometimes, you might not perform as well as you might like or others expect of you, but you can always get back on track. I think that's the one learning I've had there. And then the other thing that I think shaped my career is that I'm always a yes person. So if there's any opportunities that sound interesting or scary, I usually say yes to them. So when I was studying in Vienna, I studied economics. And I really liked it, but then there was an opportunity to do 3 months in Amsterdam, and I just said yes, as I do. And then I fell in love with the city, and I stayed there for 4 years and never returned to my home country of Austria. I then spent 11 years in London, and now I'm actually back in Amsterdam. But I guess just saying yes to opportunities that present themselves, even if they're a little bit scary, I think has been really important for me, because I've learned most from these things. And also I think you can prove to yourself that you can do more than you'd expect. And then the other thing was, so I then went to Amsterdam and I studied econometrics, which is basically statistical modeling. And I loved what I was doing, and I knew I had to kind of follow my passion. But also I really, really didn't fit in there. I was, when I presented my master thesis, I was the only woman in the room. And also I think maybe I think everyone in the room, their parents were very, very wealthy. They came from a very kind of privileged, definitely very privileged background, even though I do come as well. You know, I feel like I had a very happy childhood. I guess not quite. The expectations of making money and so on weren't there for me. And I found it really difficult because everyone had a really clear path and they knew what they wanted, and they you know, wanted to go into banking, finance, insurance, and I knew that wasn't for me. So I was really conflicted because I knew I enjoyed kind of statistics and mathematics, and so the study was right for me, but I actually didn't know where it's going to lead me. And so maybe just to conclude on that, I just stuck to what I thought would make me happy, even though I didn't see like there wasn't a big plan at the end. I didn't really know where it would lead me, but I knew that I needed to do what I enjoyed, and that was, you know, statistics, and data science wasn't a thing then. So I'm just so glad I kind of trusted my gut and went with it, and then actually a lot of opportunities emerged for me. The other thing is that I think sometimes people believe that their career needs to be really linear and you know exactly what you're doing and you have this plan and everything goes smoothly, and if there's if you deviate, then everything's gonna kind of go downhill. I've certainly made my mistakes, and in my CV there are certainly lots of interesting detours that I've done. So for example, I really was set on wanting to move to New York, so I packed my bags, bought a one-way ticket, started the job, and then I realized I really didn't like it. I missed the UK and I didn't like the job. And so a month later, I flew back and I took a job in London. But I learned so much from making that mistake about what jobs I don't like, how I care about my friends, and like kind of having, you know, all the things that I missed in Europe. So I guess mistakes are important. And then also, one thing that I think has helped me in my career is that I'm always really going after what I want, and I'm trying to think really creatively. So when I moved from Amsterdam to London, I didn't know anyone. I had no network. But I was determined to get a job in London, where it's quite competitive if you have no work experience. So I actually I made a Facebook ad, and it was very, very cheap anyway back then. And I targeted companies that I really wanted to work for, and I targeted individuals working at these companies, basically. I don't know if that is still allowed with Facebook these days, but it got me, I think, 3 job offers. And that was amazing. I think everyone was very surprised that you know, to see an ad for someone wanting to work for your company on Facebook. So I think just thinking outside of the box and really going for what you want and thinking creatively how you can stand out. Yeah, that was really important for me. And then the last thing is that I guess my ambitions were always much lower than what I actually have achieved. One of the odd things that happened to me, I guess, in my life was that I won top 20 Women in Data award, and one consequence of that was that there was like a nationwide campaign, billboard campaign, and I was like in the underground. I was like big billboards across the country promoting women in STEM, which honestly is not something I ever dreamed of. I didn't even think I'd leave my small home country in Austria. And I guess if you you know, if you follow some of these advice, like trust what you're passionate about and believe in yourself, be okay making mistakes, say yes to new opportunities, I think it will lead you to places that you wouldn't have imagined for yourself. And yeah, I think that's it. That's the advice I wanted to share. Sure. So as I said, my team is about 110 people now, and we support most decisions that we make at Deliveroo. So we look at how the app is performing, and if we might want to do introduce new features to the app or allow customers to have a better experience, but also how we work with our riders and our restaurant partners, what marketing campaigns we want to run and how we analyze how effective these are. We discuss which restaurants we should sign up next from a data perspective. So lots and lots of different interesting data problems to solve. I guess my role is more making sure that that all the people on my team have everything they need to be happy and produce their best work. So I really feel more like a kind of a cheerleader for the team, and making sure that if there's anything not working, that I'm there to fix it, more like a firefighter. I think now probably not so much anymore, but I certainly, that's my background. So I really enjoyed coding. I sadly don't get to do much of it anymore. I really liked mathematics, so that helped me. I think it was really important at the beginning of my career to get credibility when I started managing, because if you manage technical people, it's quite nice if you speak the same language and they really trust you. I think now I actually don't need it anymore, and I'm sure there are other ways to get into similar positions without having a very strong technical background too. The two things we're looking for are obviously analytical thinking, but I don't necessarily think you need to have like a mathematics degree to be good at that. I think just like problem solving and being really curious about how things work and how you can make them better is the first thing that's really important. I think you learn that in different subjects, but mathematics is probably not. If you have some interest in that, that's probably good. And then the other thing is just really communication. The kind of behavioral side is so important. Being a team player, wanting to get to the bottom of things, and the curiosity, that's super important. Definitely. I think it's going to grow and grow and grow. I can't see any slowing down of it. Don't overthink it. Just do something and you will get on your path somehow. Because I think the first thing I studied was philosophy, and it didn't work out for me. And then after a few months, I was like, no, this is not for me at all. It was just not structured. And then I did something else, and it's completely fine to make mistakes. Start somewhere. And the more you look into things, the more you find out what you're really passionate about. But don't put too much pressure on yourself to know exactly where you need to get to, but take one step at a time.